Good thing I'm taking my bang. Wow, all this pressure. All right, I'm ready for it. Let's see.
Well,
Meeting is being recorded. Okay, now I gotta watch the language now, huh?
bullshit.
Not on this one.
Okay, good. So
Actually,
anything goes then. Anything goes. All right.
literally, the deeper we can go, the better. Someone described this podcast as a little bit of woo-woo and a little bit of fuck you. So definitely just be yourself and just share from the heart. And I think that's really what connects with our audience. And that's why we wanted to shine a light on you, because you're, like I was saying before I hit record, you're just such a wonderful soul. And every time I see what you do and your heart that you put into it, it's just passion and love and purity and success and growth. And like, literally I could describe you in all these fancy words, but it's just so interesting how we got together. So I kind of feel like we should just kick it off and just dive right in with, you know, I'll start by saying coming across you, Tony, was totally like a shock in my world, because I usually only work with women. I usually only read for women, coach women. And when Ashley said, hey, I'm sending you this guy for a reading, he's into spiritual stuff and you're the perfect person I know, so I'm sending him your way, I kind of looked at Chris and was like, a dude, not that I'm like, you know, feminist, but I am, but not, you know, I was like, I don't know, guys can be weird sometimes. But Tony, when I sat across from you and I read those cards, you know, I've never been so impressed with seeing such clarity of someone who's here to be a leader, someone who's here to shine their light, someone who's here to be an example of love. And after we got off that call, I looked at Chris and said, we need to be his friend. We need to hang out with him. Like he's the dude you want to be around. So we invited you here on the Elevated Life podcast because you're that leading example of what it is to follow your heart and hit those fucking goals that you set your mind to. Like, you're living proof. So if you want to just dive right into like who you are, where'd you come from, how the hell did we get here?
Thank you so much, first off, for having me. I feel honored, you know, to see what you guys have been doing. I mean, you guys as well. I mean, the light that you shine, everything that you guys post is just, you know, it impacts me, certainly. So to be able to get that positive frequency from others, which we've only hung out one time, but you guys are still impacting me in a positive way. So what you guys are doing is amazing in this world. Amazing. But yeah, so gosh, where the heck do I begin? You know, I mean, it's been wild, but no, you know, it's like now, you know, I'm starting to come into the zone. It was just this last year, really, that I've started to dive in more spiritually. I think we got together, I think it might have been 6 months ago. So I was just kind of trying to find that part of me that was really missing. I felt that there was a void. Like I was attacking this career and this business and success and all these other things. And it was like, there was something that was missing or incomplete. Like there was, you know, there was a time in my life in my mid-20s where I was maybe making the most money I had made at that point. And you would think that I should be happy, but it's like, I was in the darkest place at times. And I was like, why is that? What is really missing? And it was that spiritual side, it was that awareness. It was that understanding of why I'm really here. My dad, you know, growing up has been into, you know, all kinds of different studies, you know, studying Buddhist monks, studying all kinds of different religions and being open to everything. And I was watching him growing up, but I really didn't understand it. And it's like now I'm getting into those books like the 4 Agreements, the 5 Agreements, and The Alchemist, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, you know, so yeah, so it feels good to finally start tapping into some things that really matter in this world. But where to begin? I mean, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start in the path?
Oh gosh, I don't even know, because there's so many different aspects to you, to your success, to your career path. I think something, if people aren't watching the video, first of all, pause the podcast, go get on YouTube and turn on the video, because you need to see this beautiful, bright, shiny man. But if they're looking at you, they got a question. How come you so big? How'd you get so big?
Oh, I mean, how'd I get so big, right? Yeah, so.
And not just like not just the, you know, I pumped iron this many hours and I take the creatine and the proteins, but like Chris was 275 when I met him. And so I asked him when we did mushrooms, why are you so big? Why are you so muscular?
Yeah.
Said, because my dad used to beat me. And I thought if I got big enough, then I could protect myself. So my question is, where did that begin? Where did the passion for physical fitness kick in for you?
Huh. Well, since we're getting real deep, I'm gonna try and go deep inside to figure that one out, because I could say, partly it was the love of sports early. It was something that formed with me and my dad that was a special bond where, he was the coach of my little league basketball team, and he was, a part of that. And I would have those hours training with him. He would have me go outside and shoot 1,000 shots a day. So it was like that bond in sports with him really impacted me early. And I started to fall in love with the gym. I started to fall in love with putting in the work and seeing those results. I think, in the documentary I just released on YouTube, I did an hour documentary. And I talked about, he actually created this allowance system. I don't know if you saw it, but he created this allowance system where, I would get my allowance based on my performance. And that was interesting. Now that I look at that now as a parent, it hits a little different. At first, as a kid, you're like, what, why can't you just give me the money, Dad? You got the money. I mean, can't I just go buy the stuff that I want? And it's like, no, he was smarter than that. It was like, no, son, for every tackle, for every sack, for every interception, this is what you'll get paid. And so I started to understand that, you get paid based on performance. You don't just get a participation award. It's like, you got to go win and you got to go earn it. So that's where I fell in love with bodybuilding, was in sports, in football. And then, after I had an injury in football, I just found an avenue in bodybuilding to find something to compete in. Because in the business world, growing a company and growing linear roofing, I didn't really have that individual sport anymore. My goal was to go to the NFL at one point, and that was shattered due to an injury. So it was an avenue for me to get those competition juices flowing. And so that's where that love in the gym happened. But if I take it back to when I was a kid, deeply, I remember being 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was really not a ladies' man at all. I mean, I had a little belly, like I was a little chunky. I had big buck teeth, and I didn't date any girls at all growing up. I mean, I didn't date any girls basically in high school. My parents just didn't even allow it. They were like, no, son, you ain't going to no bachelor parties. So I think, I was a little bit uncomfortable, right? I was uncomfortable physically in my shell in this suit, because as we know now, we're all in suits. There's something deeper within, but I wasn't happy with my suit. And so I think over time I was like, you know what? I want to change my suit. I want a suit that's attractive. I want to not only be attractive on the inside with who I am, but I also want to be attractive and be an example with my physical body. So I think that's where it kind of came out, was being very unattractive as a kid. So I wanted to be more attractive as I got older.
I want to take a pause real quick, because you brought up multiple really important things. And I want to make sure that everyone who's listening is tapping into this. And that one is that having a great mentor means a ton. An absolute ton. How far you can run on your own is only a certain distance, but when you have a mentor or someone who believes in you, a parent, doesn't matter who that teacher, doesn't matter who that person is, how much further you can go with their assistance is astronomical. I'm always talking about, being able to do it yourself. There's a lot of merit to that, but having someone who is there, especially on the days where you suffer personally, where you're going through something, having them on the sideline and talking about rote discipline. I mean, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to be, for one, successful, really successful. A lot of people don't understand what it takes to be a professional bodybuilder, which is very cutthroat. I mean, it's not just going into the gym and lifting weights. It's not like, well, I lift more, and so I'm going to do better. I mean, you have to just show me there's eating food when you don't want to eat food. There's massively carb depleting yourself. There's screwing around with your sodium and potassium levels. There's all these, now you've got to pose really well. Now you've got to make sure you're symmetrical. Now you got to make sure certain your muscles are coming out. I mean, there's so much that goes into.
You mean I don't just get to eat the brown rice and broccoli and look that good?
No, it doesn't work that way. You're right, Chris.
There's so much to it, and being as physically fit as you are takes so long. It's not something that you can get, 8-minute abs. It's not that like that. No. That's so much marketing stuff. And I think that having that kind of discipline that you're talking about is so important to meeting your goals, because you won't always have motivation, but you'll always have discipline if you build it.
Yeah, no, you make a great point. And that's why I actually fell in love with the sport, is that exact concept you're talking about. And that's what's actually bled into the business world to allow the success and getting on to HGTV and all these other things was partly that discipline from my mentor, which was my dad. So it's like that concept of knowing that you have to eat right, you have to train specific, you have to understand where your gaps are to go ahead and attack them to improve them. And you might work an entire year without putting yourself on display. Like you're in the dark. You know, no one's watching you. You're 10, 11 o'clock at night, 4 in the morning, you're with your headphones and you're grinding while no one's watching. And I love that concept of being disciplined and consistent when no one was looking, when you're not out in the arena, for then that moment, which would only be 10 minutes potentially in front of the arena to put yourself on display, where you couldn't hide. Like the results are going to show. So you can't cheat the process, right? And a lot of other things you could get away and you could cheat and you could pretend or fake it till you make it. You can't fake this. And so it teaches you, like even in a relationship, if you're faking it, eventually that's going to unveil itself, right? So I think understanding that in bodybuilding in a positive way can impact my life in all different avenues.
What do you think also, talking about success mindset, because you've built a lot of things. By the way, saw your car. Congratulations. Beautiful car. Great pickup. What was it? 2022 Lambo? What is that?
That one. So there's a few vehicles. So I got the STO Lamborghini. I got a Rolls Royce. I got a Brabus being built, and then a Shelby truck. So all 4 of those I actually got in the last couple of months. It's been a wild year. I mean, honestly, just talking out, openly, it's like this year becoming, after 15 years in a sales career, grinding away, being consistent to become a multi-millionaire this year and getting used to that. It has been a lot. It's been amazing, but it's like understanding that we are not those things. Like those things come and go. They're really, at this point, that Lamborghini and those things is really just strategy to create more attraction to the business, quite honestly, because there's not many roofers that are going to have a Lamborghini, or my next goal in 2 years or a year is to get a Bugatti. So those things, I enjoy them, but they don't define me. I'm not immersed in these physical things, but I do know that a young up-and-comer coming up in a sales career, that may be attractive to them to want to come work in our avenue to show them that they can have that same thing. They can create that dream. If that's their dream, they can come be a part of our movement and go create that dream as well.
How has your dream shifted over the years? Because it sounded like NFL was the original dream and you were primed and prepped and ready for that. And then you had to shift. Obviously, sounds like 15 years of sales is what called you, and you're this incredible roofer. But you also found yourself on HGTV. You found yourself working towards Mr. Olympia. Like there's a lot of different successes in many different categories. So how did those layer upon each other?
It does stem with the nickname that you guys hear now. You see the nickname floating around, and it's like you see the goat thing. And I think initially some people that don't know me, are like, oh, this is cocky. Like, what does he mean he's the GOAT? He's the GOAT of what? Because like you said, there's so many different things I'm touching. So for me, it's a different concept. It's being the best I can be at anything that I'm involved in, realizing that my name is attached to anything. And so some people, it's like, oh, well, I'm great at this, so I get to slack at that, right? I'm great at this avenue. I'm great at business, so I get to come home and be a shitty husband, right? Or not be focused because I'm making up for it in this. So that concept of GOAT, growing up in Groesbeck, Texas, with our mascot as a goat, my dad explaining to me at 13, like, that means greatest of all time. And I think sometimes we kind of step into our name, or, I think even giving children a powerful name, it's like, oh shit, my name has power. I gotta stand up and be confident. And so for me, the GOAT did the same thing. When I understood, like, I'm nicknamed the GOAT, everything that I touched, I had to do it to the best of my ability, which led to all these different avenues, you know, blowing up in a sense. What did you say there at the end, Brittany?
Well, I was wondering, like, how your dream has shifted over
The
time.
dream, yes, the dream. Because that dream was the NFL, and I think over time, it shifted to create a life of abundance where I had freedom to do what I wanted to do with the people that I love and have options. So, you know, now it's not being in a cage and boxed in where society tells me I have to be boxed in, where it's being limitless and being able to create anything that I want. And I almost look at now, I fell in love early on with, I loved games growing up. I loved board games. I loved Monopoly. I loved Risk. I loved chess. It was all these games. And it's weird to say this, but how we've created some of the culture we've created in different industries that I've been in. I was in LA Fitness. I was a regional vice president with LA Fitness at the highest level, running multiple states at one point. Big sales teams. You know, now we have a team of about 200 at Linear Roofing and Linear Solar. And I almost look at it like it's not work to me. Like when people look at their work and they look at it, work, I dread getting up every day. To me, this is a game to me. It's weird to say this, but it's all how you perceive what you're doing in your reality. And in my reality, I'm waking up every day and I'm playing a game. So I'm waking up every day and we're almost playing Risk nationally, growing a business, and I'm just having fun with the people I'm doing it with. So now my dream has shifted to leave an impact on as many lives that I could leave with me, with the loved ones around me, to where it's like, truly, I could say that I'm exuding a positive frequency to people that is impacting them to create a better trajectory in their life, wherever that may be. And that's the spark that I want to be in my dream. And wherever that may lead me, I don't really have a necessarily specific thing that I want my life to be at 40. I'm actually now, it's weird when you ask me that, it's like, my dream is now flowing and being open, quite honestly. It's being open to whatever comes at me and doing the best that I can and having the experiences along the way with the people I love.
Greatest of all, Tony. Hello. Like, wow. You know, it's interesting because you've reached such a high level of success. And, you know, when you do that, maybe you're like us, where you hit that level and you're like, well, why am I not happy? Well, what's next? What's missing? And it sounds like your definition of success has also shifted over time from the vision of the dream and how you define success. And what you just said, spending time with family is what's most important to you now, not necessarily gaining the cars or having the accolades. I mean, you've hit some really high level achievements in your life, things that people will never even dream of. Just specifically Mr. Olympia. I remember when I met Chris, he was like, you know about Ronnie Coleman? I'm like, funny story. We ended up going on our first trip together. I was 21 years old. We took a cruise, and guess who was on that fucking boat?
Ronnie. Get out of here. Wow.
So funny how, you know, just like what you're prepped for, what your mind is, I guess, programmed for. You are programmed for success. You've achieved it. So many different levels. And now you've come to that point where, okay, I've got papers on the wall. I'm doing all the things, but what does success really mean to me now? So you mentioned not knowing where you're going at 40 and stepping into this flow and trust of letting things come to you. How did you get to that point? Because you've obviously been programmed to work hard, to fucking get it. How do you find that patience and trust in letting your life unfold now?
Yeah, it does have to do with a lot of books that I've been reading recently. And I think the biggest thing that I took actually from the, Don Miguel Ruiz with the 4 agreements and the 5 agreements is understanding that, when we're born, this really hit me hard. It's like when we're born, we could be born anywhere in the different religions, different cultures, anywhere on this earth. It's like we are then programmed by our parents. And I started to realize, like, how many sets of parents have there been before me? Thousands, right? It's like, if we just played the telephone game with 10 people, like, that message is very different by the 10th person, right? So starting to understand that I have to remove myself from all the beliefs that society gave me growing up and step back to look at it for what it is that inside my soul, what does Tony believe that I need to be? How do I need to be moving in this life? How do I need to be treating people? How do I need to, like, maybe for some men, society's told them that they have to be this tough, rough guy, and they can't cry and they can't show emotions, or they can't. I don't believe in some of those things, right? I've detached myself from some of those realities that maybe other people live in. And I think that's where some people in this world are living truly, like, people say, oh, you got to wait to go to heaven or hell. But it talks about, like, people are living in hell right now in torment in their mind. And it's a choice, because they're allowing society to put all these judgments in their head. So once I've now detached myself from all of these things and beliefs, now your parents are doing the best thing they could. Like, my parents are giving me the best set of ideas that they can, but they're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? So understanding that now I've detached myself to look at things the way that I want to look at them, and to create the dream of my life. Yeah.
I'm gonna point out a couple of other big things that you've mentioned here, just so people are really focused on these. And that is that when you talked about having the cars, a lot of times in life, what we don't realize that we're doing is we're playing a role for other people. It's not just the role that we're in, but we have to show up and play that role. It's almost like we've conspired with the other people to play that role for them. And people are going to project onto you no matter what you do. Doesn't matter what it is. People are going to have their stereotypes, their judgments. It's natural. We're all built that way. We have to be that way. We can protect ourselves. But being able to play that role and being that role model for somebody, but at the same time being able to step out of it and say, that's not me, but I'm helping that person by doing this, allows you so much freedom in life, because you don't have to get caught up in their story, even though you're playing a big part in it. You're doing something for them that maybe no one else can even show them. And for me, I can remember talking about working out. The gym that I went to, there was a guy that came in and he never benched over 400 pounds. Never in his life. Strong guy. Never benched over 400 pounds in his life. A lot of the other guys in the gym can bench over 600. Big old boy, right? He trained for 3 months. It took him 3 months to hit 500. It took him another 4 months to hit 729.
Damn.
And so sometimes it's about, like Britt talking about, meeting Tony, being able to meet you in person. I was like, we're soul brothers. I mean, this is like, I could sit here and talk with you however much time we had. I mean, I'm like, I've been thinking about this podcast all week, which is abnormal for me. I don't normally do that. I let the world take me where it wants to. But like I've been thinking about it, and just because I'm so excited, because in my heart, I think that there's going to start to be, at least this is my hope, that there's going to start to be more guys like you. I think that we are going to start being on the cusp of what I'm going to call the new man. That is someone who is successful, who realizes that success is a game. And a lot of times it's a mindset. And if you have the right mindset, just like you have done, you can succeed no matter what you do. You never have to worry. If the market turns down, if we go into recession, if this happens, if the world crumbles, so what? Bring on the next thing. I'm going to succeed no matter what. That's a mindset.
It is.
The really important part of that mindset is allowing you to go to what I think is even more important, which is letting it go. Letting everything go and just totally surrendering to what's there in that moment. And to me, that's a real feminine quality. And most guys have not been able to brush up against that because, like you said, we've been taught to be tough. And it's until you discover that the feminine aspect oftentimes is stronger. I think that's why they've got the kids. That's why they carry the kids around. I think that feminine quality is extremely powerful. And when you can combine the two, if you just have one of them, it can suck. It can make you angry. It can make you frustrated. It make you
I
feel
can see
like
that.
you're a portion of someone instead of being a whole. But I think you have done such an amazing job. And I'm so glad that we're able to actually talk to you at this part of your journey. Because like you said, the spiritual part has really started to come in more recently.
Yeah.
And what I find with my own clients is that I'm teaching them two things, or we're working on two things. And one is success. If you don't have a success mindset, you have to go after that first. You can't go after the second one, I don't think, until you have that. And then once you have a success mindset, you realize it's not everything. And what you really need to do is to have that spiritual mindset and to start really discovering who you are, not just how you interact in the world. I love you so much, brother. I'm just telling you, it was amazing being around you. When we were in person, I felt like that full heart open connection.
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to look for and find other people in life that make me feel that way as a guy who's normally, I'm normally really introverted. You know, I'm normally like, I like to read, I like to study, I like to research and come out and help people with that knowledge. Like, that's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to come home. People are like, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? I'm like, I'm reading. What are you doing? You know, like it's not sexy, but when I was in your presence, and I hope people can feel it coming through, your passion and your power, not just physical, but just what you're bringing forward, I think is so important to show other people that's as a guy, how to live.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
this is the way where you're fully charged, like you're full power.
It's love. I mean, it is love, right? I mean, so I think now my people feel that I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, even though I'm now, you know, an executive in what's going to be a multi-billion-dollar organization. It's like most people at my level, it's like they want to hide, or they want to be a hermit, or they want to be in a tower, and they don't want to get involved with their people belly to belly and connect. This life is about connecting with people and getting them to feel you. Like, my people shouldn't even need my words to feel I'm with them. I got their back. We're in this thing. Like, it is a feeling that you definitely have. And that's why, you know, to your point about sharing things and posting things out there for other people, like, now it's to the point where, you know, I know that I have a responsibility. Like, I have a responsibility now to, like, even though if I'm good and I'm okay, my family's okay, I now have a responsibility to pass that torch, to show, like you, Chris, like, you can be a different type of man in this life, and you can go after success differently, and you don't have to live it like we've been told maybe how to live it. Like, you can be open, you can be spiritual, you can ask questions, you know, and I'm putting stuff out there that are probably like, this dude's a little weird, right? But I don't care. And it's letting go and not feeling like I'm worried about what people think anymore. I think that was a big thing early in my 20s coming up in the corporate world. You're always worried about, you know, what if this is taken wrong, or what if I'm looked at differently? And now it's like you just eventually have the confidence that you're walking in your truth. First agreement, being impeccable with your word. So you're truly just walking in your truth. And if you're walking in your truth fully, then who really gives a shit about what anyone thinks? Because then they shouldn't even be in your realm or in your world. They could go somewhere else. I want the people that are going to allow me to be me. And that's just how I'm going to be. And so that's where the shift in our company has definitely, you can feel it. It's, you know, linear roofing and linear solar. We started this thing 8 years ago. What's wild is we started this thing 8 years ago. I was knocking doors. I didn't know anything about roofs. I didn't even know what a shingle was. And now we just transacted for the largest transaction in the history of our industry. This is in 8 years. So it's like knocking doors, figuring it out, and getting to the point where you create a movement to where it's not even about roofing, actually. It's not about roofing. It's about how we are treating the people within the business to not only be great at what they do work-wise, but be better men, better husbands, better brothers, better fathers. And it's all about personal development and internal development. Because typically you're going to have problems in the business if you have problems at your house. If you got personal issues internally going on and all these battles and all these demons, you're not going to be able to perform your best in a work environment. So understanding that, we are constantly giving books to our people to read. We're constantly talking about where are you growing in different avenues. And now we're not the people going out on Indeed trying to recruit people into the business. Our own people are recruiting people into the business because they're just happy. And so it's a completely different way to go about it, but it all starts with internal awareness and treating your people with respect and with love and just full transparency.
Yeah, and I feel like this is such the roadmap to what anybody should be doing with anything. If you're in a relationship, like I'm trying to help Britt grow into be the best person she can be. Whatever help she needs me to do, I'm right there. Yeah. I'm trying to grow myself into the best person I can be, whatever that means for me.
Yeah.
So every single place you're showing up, when I'm talking to that cash register guy, we got groceries today. When we're talking to that guy, I want him to be excited. I want him to look at us and be like, I want those people to come in my, hey, come in my aisle. I see you over there. Come over here.
Yeah.
I think that we have such an opportunity to touch people's lives and we dismiss it because we're too much in our head thinking about our own success or whatever's going on, or people are judging me, or like you said, trying to, well, how can I impress this person? How can I be more like they want me to be so that they'll accept me and love me and give me all that? And we're missing the opportunity to, like you said, connect, to be with that person, to say, I'm here.
Yeah.
We are humans. We are right here, right now. Stop being somewhere else.
Man, hey, I was watching Avatar with my daughter this weekend. You just hit something that reminded me. The scene in Avatar, because the new one's coming out, and it said in Avatar, that moment where they say, I see you. And it wasn't like a physical, I see you. And I thought about this. It's like, I see you. I see who you are internally, and it's a beautiful being. So it's understanding that everyone around us, to your point, that cash register, that person that's working the cash, that's a beautiful being right there, and taking time to appreciate that person. Once you start walking like that, then everyone around you starts feeling it and they want to be a part of what you're doing, to your point.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned your daughter, because I wanted to shift gears and ask, how has becoming a father changed the way you show up as a leader or the way you show up in your own life for yourself?
Yeah, you know, I give a lot of credit to my parents for how they raised me, the discipline they instilled, and some of the things that they did ultimately. And now I felt like, because I do have that lens, it's almost like I've always been told that, you know, as you start rising up in whatever you're doing, you're in a fishbowl and you're always being watched. You know, now this day and age with social media, I mean, oh my gosh, you know, it's like 20 years ago, we weren't even worried about this stuff, but now it's like every move you make is going to be seen in a sense. And so I think for me, when I had my daughter, I wanted to, you know, I wanted to be an example in a sense for other men to know that it's okay to be vulnerable and show love for your kids constantly. And it's a real thing. Like, there's no other love that's, to me, than is that of, like, to your children right now. I've never felt anything like it. It's amazing. And I think for me, I wanted to showcase that more. And I've now seen some of my friends around me realize that it's okay to showcase their kids and showcase the love and showcase, you know, how much they're doing with them. That means a lot to me. It shifted my purpose a lot, to answer your question. It shifted my purpose from, you know, before it was all around, what does Tony want? What does Tony need? Where does Tony want to go? What does Tony want to do today? And now it's like, man, I am creating this world. Everything that I do with her, every conversation is impactful. It means something. It can shift her thinking to create the dream that she wants in this world. So it's everything, you know, now, you know, designing weekends in essence to go do events with her specifically, and to see them just light up with joy is just an amazing feeling. So it's definitely shifted it from being about me to then being about how do I create an amazing world for my daughter, which then flows into how do I create now an amazing world for all those underneath me who look to me for leadership. So that mentality with your child, looking at it more in the people that are underneath me in this business that are looking at me for leadership, wanting to cultivate them more and develop them more and understand that I have a responsibility and I can't take any meeting with them one-on-one or sit down or conversation or phone call lightly, right? I got to give them everything that I have, because that conversation can be the conversation to change everything in their world. So, yeah.
I think that's so powerful. So as a leader, obviously some of the qualities that you embody have come up: discipline, confidence, vulnerability. What are some other qualities that you feel like a true leader should have moving into this new age and this new realm of, you know, spiritual leadership? Not just like, I'm going to be an authoritarian and use fear to manipulate. I want to do it out of a place of love. What are some other qualities that you feel like, if you're wanting to step into a leadership role, here are things that you could focus on to develop to become that great leader?
I would think that, you know, a lot of leaders that I feel don't do a good job of cultivating a team environment and getting a following, in a sense. They're more leaders that want to show them the book or tell them how it's done. I would say your best leaders are going to be those leaders that could get their hands dirty and that they can lead from the front. That was the type of leader that I wanted to be, was not someone that's just telling someone how to do it, but show them how to do it. And that's showing them how to walk in that light, in a sense, because I could tell them all day long, but to show them and them to see it for themselves and see the shift in that energy as a leader, because I'm tapping more into a spiritual realm. Now they're like, oh shit, what is he drinking? What is he on right now? What kind of mushrooms is he taking, right? Right? He's like, I want some of that shit. So I think, you know, to first walk in it myself, and there's still a lot of growth there. And I gotta be cognizant to not get sucked in to the everyday building a business, the routine, and take that time for meditation, to sit back, to, you know, I want to be able to do a retreat with you guys at one point, and those kind of things. But yeah, I would say making sure that you are leading from the front. That way you have an example for them to follow.
That totally triggers my high school varsity basketball days, and my coach with his man titties would ride in his pickup truck behind us while we would run 5 miles around town. And I had so much just negative energy towards that type of leadership.
Yes.
So leading from the front is, I'm on board with that. I'll get in the back of the truck and you can drive.
Yeah, it's really hard. You do start to create this negative energy. And I've seen it, like specifically when you asked me that, I'm thinking about my business and, you know, getting someone to go out and knock doors, which is not the funnest thing, guys. Like, it's not like I got people that can go make a great life, but quite honestly, we have to teach them how to knock doors first. And not everyone likes to answer their door and be very peaceful, you know? So you're getting a lot of rejection. So when you have a leader that's just telling you to go out there and they're getting rejected, and they're looking back at the leader like, this leader ain't doing shit himself, I'm out of here. So in my business, in my line of work, yeah, it's definitely a big key factor. And I do think as well is, for us, it's making sure that they have their personal life in order. I mean, I you know, whether it be in their relationships or how they're treating, like if we see as a leadership group that someone is doing something that is not good in terms of their character and integrity, then we're going to nip it in the bud immediately, because it's a cancer that will spread in our leadership unit very fast. Like, You know, for a lot of maybe, you know, people that are running out and working sales jobs and, you know, they're going to the bar late at night or whatever, that's not going to fly. Where you're telling your wife you're doing something and you're lying. If you're lying to your wife at home or you're lying to your significant others, then what are you doing in the business where our customers are with us? So I think understanding that everything is one, all is one, and you can't just say, oh, I'm not gonna have character over here, but I am gonna have character over there, right? So leading in that respect of saying that we're not gonna accept someone to have lack of morals and integrity.
So I've got a question. Earlier, you mentioned, you know, you need to be aware of the gaps that you have so that you can prepare yourself to kind of attack the weaker points in yourself.
Yeah.
When you think about your personal growth and your spiritual development and where you're at now, what would you say you feel or think the gap is now that you're currently working on?
The gap now is definitely, for me, I'm not very good at organization and scheduling type of stuff because I start dabbing into
Why you showed up an hour late to the podcast?
That's why. That's exactly why. I'm just
Cheers
not
to
good
that.
at it. I admit my flaws. Like, and I even talk about it with you know, our COO with me. You know, it's like I am the guy that needs to be touching people and impacting people and communicating and them feeling that energy to inspire them to go do more than they could have done without me, right? I'm that sales guy that's pushing. So I think for me, it's being organized and having a set schedule and mapping that out in a week and just being a better planner. Like, for instance, like doing bills and making sure direct payments are going through and cards are on like, that's not me. I'm not good at those things. Typically when I've had a partner, the partner's good at those things. So now that I'm on my own, those are definitely gaps that I find myself needing to fill and be better at.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about meditation and about you reading spiritual books. What current, we'll call them spiritual practices do you do? And what things are you looking forward, or what are you wanting? What are you itching to try?
You know what? You know, in the morning, I will typically do a walk in the morning to set my mind up in a positive way. I think, you know, some people just get up about their day and they just go right into it. I think to set your day up, for me at least, I like to either be listening to some kind of inspirational message or a video or Eric Thomas or Tony Robbins, and I'll just do my cardio while I'm almost meditating. Like, because I don't really have much time to just sit down for 30 minutes and do like a true meditation. So I'll try and do cardio at the same time that I'm also listening to something. That's kind of my form of meditation there. What was the last part of your question, Chris, there?
What else are you excited about trying? Because
that's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. I always say pin it. If I'm getting old, I feel like my memory's getting bad. Ayahuasca. Yeah. My parents did ayahuasca, and my mom is not, she's been the opposite of being like in tune with the spiritual realm and those kind of things. And my dad and my sister have been very much into it. My sister's a Reiki coach. She lives in Switzerland, and she does lessons and all. She would love to meet you guys. She's amazing.
Switzerland's at the top of my travel list for next year. So yes, please.
Yeah, an amazing being my sister is. So my mom has been completely out of that realm. She did ayahuasca, and she was like, she was floating over the desert sands, seeing herself and getting answers to all these questions with her mom. And so I definitely want to try some different things to open me up even more, because I've heard sometimes after some ceremonies like that you even find that you're tapping into something even deeper. So that's what I'm looking to go into now. I think you got that. You got the frog venom. I think you guys were talking about it at one point, and there's a couple of others, but that's what I want to get into with some of those ceremonies.
Yeah, I find that for me, It's that, we always look through, and even if you've got a great filter of the world, even if it's like you've talked about, it's programmed, it's success, it's all that. When we have that filter look through the world, that's excellent. But what I find that the psychedelics do for me is they like put that filter and they take it out and they pop this new lens on for a minute. And suddenly I'm looking out at the world in a different spot, and I don't get to keep it. Because like once the session's over, it's over. But I got to see it. I got to see it for those few moments, and my mind goes, oh, just like the guy bench pressing. He's, oh, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I've been limiting myself. What the hell have I been doing? Or I haven't been fully me. And I feel like that, to me, they give me a better glimpse of what is fully and really me.
You take the personality off.
Yeah, I get to remove all the layers that I've put on that I'm unaware of. Because like, no matter what you're doing, you always have blinder spots. It doesn't matter what you do. And so, but you become aware of those blinder spots. You're like, holy shit, I've been lying to myself for the last years. Why have I been in this relationship for so long that I knew would never work out? I can't change that person. I can't change anybody. Well, I barely could change myself. What was I even thinking? I think in those moments, you give yourself the reprieve of letting go of not having to have it all figured out. And to realize that not having it figured out sometimes is the greatest blessing, because it will lead you into miracles that you couldn't have found otherwise. You're gonna stumble into someone that you didn't know, and because of the conversation or because of something that you've discovered about yourself, they feel that, like you're talking about, it's a presence. I'm not trying to use my words. I'm trying to be there, and because you've been there in the deep dark alley, when you find somebody who is in that deep dark alley, they feel you. And I think that we become that light, whether we mean to do it or not. It's not something you're trying to do. Like, I'm not trying to walk around and be the light. Like I mean, that seems weird. That's almost like I'm humble. Like, you can't call yourself humble or you're not humble. So I'm not trying to be the light. You just do it because you face the darkness. That's the only way you get to be the light, is by facing that actual darkness. And by doing that for yourself, you allow others to sort of face that darkness as well and say, hey, this is possible. This is doable. You come out all right.
Well, full circle, fascinating moment right here. I shared earlier about how Chris got into weight lifting and changing the way that he shows up physically and mentally. It was on the mushrooms, our first mushroom experience, that I had asked Chris, like, why so big? Why do you have, like, what's the deal with that? That's when it was just full transparency, full clarity. He just answered like, well, my dad used to beat me. But I don't think he even knew that was the motive as to why he was at the fucking gym every day. It was in that moment that he discovered that mechanism that was protecting him at one point in his life was actually not serving him anymore. And it was that trip that Chris totally transformed the way that he works out. We got really into yoga and we went vegan after that. So it was amazing how many things shifted because that perspective was broadened.
What's also really interesting about that is that I walked away from weights for a while because I felt that need. Okay, I don't need this so bad, but then I came back to it. Yeah,
we were CrossFit competitors.
I love it. I mean, I love it. There's something about it. I mean, I was Arnold was such a big deal when I was growing up. Watching Terminator, watching Commando, like watching all those kind of movies. I actually met Sean Ray in person, which
that's my boy now.
Who is the businessman of all businessmen.
He's awesome, man.
Sharp. I met Jay Cutler. I met a bunch of those guys. And so, like, to me, they were always doing something that is so far beyond like the physical scope of most people. And it was so damn impressive. So it's amazing to be able to let go, but to be able to come back with a different kind of passion. So I could approach it in a new way, re-fall in love.
In a healthier, healthier way, 100%. Because now, I don't think I'm going to ever step on a stage again, right? Because quite honestly, it is dangerous. Competing at that high of a level, you said it earlier, it is a grind, and you are dabbing into dangerous things. If you're competing at the Olympic level, you have to do things that are putting your health at risk. So now, for me, taking a step back to realize I don't have to be that big. That's not where I want to be moving forward. I want to have longevity in this life to enjoy the time with my kids, and bodybuilding like that is not going to do it. But you guys mentioned mushrooms. Funny, I started dabbing into mushrooms about 3 years ago. This was when I turned pro. I kid you not, real story. People don't know this. I won the overall at Universe. There was 6 weeks before that show, my stomach cut open. I had an umbilical hernia and I had a hole in my stomach. 6 weeks before the biggest show I'd ever competed at, nationals. So I have a hole ripped open. I have this protruding thing in my stomach and I'm like, fuck, I'm already so close. I got to finish this thing out. So I just ended up slowing down my leg training, landing the plane. And when I got there to the show, that was the first time I took mushrooms before getting on the stage. And so my coach would give me these mushrooms to pose. Ray Baker, that's my coach, by the way.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's a spiritual guru as well. Very much in tune, you know, and he's actually helped me get more in line with this type of lane that I'm so interested about. And I took mushrooms before the stage, and I kid you not, I felt more open, more alive, more myself, more free from the judgments and the eyes on me, more of like just walking into that confidence of who I am and the work that I put in. And I won the overall at Universe and became pro, then went on to win the Dallas Europa. So every show after that, fun fact, I won the Dallas Europa, went to the Arnold, went to the Olympia last year, but every show I've used mushrooms before the stage.
Secret hack. Everyone listening, you're welcome. There's your secret hack. Mushrooms.
Yeah.
Do you know, so for many years, Chris is always, as this Aquarius, is always on the next thing, like the next big thing that's going to happen. And I've asked him throughout the years, and last year or the year before, I had asked Chris, so what's the next big thing? And he said mushrooms. And I'll be damned if not everyone's fucking microdosing, talking about it, showing the studies, seeing how impactful it is in depression and PTSD. Like, so now I want to ask you, I'm turning the script. What's the next thing, mister?
It's hypnosis. People are going to start figuring out about hypnosis. And I think the reason why people haven't figured it out is because there's a lot of really elite people. And I don't mean elites like politicians, although that too, but really elite in physical sports, NFL, baseball, and NBA, all that, plus the Olympic people have figured out about hypnosis forever ago. And that's one of the ways that they can go into a competition and be relaxed. Because a lot of times you don't want to be stressed out going to competition. That's sort of like, a lot of us can use anger in the gym to fuel our workouts, to lift a little bit more. You get that extra rep out, that second rep out, and that can work very well in the gym for a certain amount of time. But when you go out to actually perform, using anger doesn't work because it's too fast. The burn is boom, and then all of your energy is gone and you're depleted. And then now you can't compete with the guy who's just having fun. Yeah. And so what I think people will figure out is that hypnosis is that gateway to that relaxation, so that you're not moved by nervousness. You're not moved by a lack of confidence.
Fear, criticism.
You can build in, like we're talking about that programming that your parents, you can give yourself that with hypnosis. I mean, in a very short period of time. And I think people will start to figure that out. We're definitely not there yet. Once you start hearing it mentioned in anything mainstream, I think is that first sign, because we started hearing about Silicon Valley doing microdosing years back. I mean, they talked about that several years back. And so I knew like eventually people would figure it out, because people are starting to get better ideas. And then you had like all the nootropics that came out, and you had all the guys who are winning the World Series of Poker using different kind of smart drugs. And so leaning into that.
Oh, Homebro's a fucking champion poker player too, by the way.
I've done so. I played in the WSOP. I'm playing in the main event. I kid you not. That's another thing I am playing in the main event every year, basically moving. That's just something I just love to do. So
we should sit down sometime and have a talk about that. I used to do that professionally.
Like, did you?
Like for
wow! Look at that.
Hey, if I don't make this money, I'm not gonna have any food to eat.
I mean, we might have to go to the WSOP main event and just play. You know?
Oh my gosh!
That would be pretty cool.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And even that, using mushrooms, you know, before I would play, like just a microdose. And I agree. Absolutely. I feel like there's not this come down off of it. Right. You know, I've had bad experiences with other drugs where you have this come down. So for me, mushrooms is a safe way to go about it if you use it at the right dose, to be very functional and be very open with your loved ones and partners and have fun. Instead of going and drinking a ton of alcohol and putting a ton of poison in you, which some people, it's like, I'm gonna go drink 20 drinks and get drunk. I don't want anything to do with that now. Not at this age. I really don't, because then the next day you're so hungover and it's crushing your day. So I agree. Mushrooms are that thing. But hypnosis, I could see that coming. I could see that coming for sure.
I mean, the fascinating, we won't do this whole thing about hypnosis, but one of the most fascinating things about it is that there's so many healing states. We know the body can heal itself. That's why we go to sleep every night. The body starts to heal. Sometimes you get a stomach ache, you get a headache, you feel bad, you go to bed, you wake up, hey, you're a whole new person again. There are so many states that are close to that sleep state that are healing. And I'm not talking about just physically where your breath slows down, you start to relax, but very mentally healing, where if you've been stressed for too long, which I love people who are successful, because I mean, they're some of the most fun people to be around because their vision of the world is different. They have such more of an optimistic vision because it takes that to be successful. Like if you have a negative attitude, it's gonna be tough. It's just gonna be a bigger mountain to climb. You can still do it, it's just gonna be harder. And I think that when people start to realize how much their attitude plays into things, and how much just being able to take, and I'm not talking about, oh, you do one hypnosis session, suddenly you never feel stressed. That's bullshit. But if you were to take your normal stress level and what you could succeed, if this is your stress level, I can exceed this much. If you reduce this down by 10 to 15%, how much more you can succeed is like exponential. It's not linear. It's not a linear thing. It's like, if I'm 20% more relaxed when I go into things, or if I'm 20% more confident or more feeling whatever type of presence I need to feel, whatever, you know.
Oh yeah.
Then I'm going to knock it out of the park way more times.
Well, what I'm hearing with that, Chris, is if those percentages, I'm a numbers guy. It's like, you know, if you're increasing all those variables per se in a positive way, in my mind, it's like, and we can get on a whole other thing about manifesting, but it's like, I truly feel with 100% certainty, I can manifest anything that I want in this world. Like anything that
and that's why you do, Tony.
Yeah, it's like, no, like anything that my mind thinks about, like maybe it's not like flying up to the moon, but like something like reality that I can physically do in this world, like owning a sports team. That came to my mind a year ago.
So which team are you going to own? Mark it here on the Elevated Life podcast.
You know, I don't have a specific sport yet, but that's in my mind. And to your point about increasing all these variables, I feel like you're going to be able to manifest your dreams and your goals and your targets if you're in a better state of mind. Because if you're negative, even a little bit more, your odds are less. You're really just trying to give yourself the best odds to success that you can. And the more that you can be in a positive state of mind, the more odds are you're going to attract positive shit into your life. That's it. Right? So I want to be there where you're at.
I feel like it's definitely the cheat codes. Our brain works this way, and people figured it out hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I mean, the Egyptians were using it forever ago, and I think we're barely starting to get into it. I think one of the big reasons why, just like mushrooms haven't hit big yet,
is because they work.
It's because it's one of those modalities that works, and it makes a lot of the other things that we try almost obsolete. There's a lot of like therapies that just take too long. It doesn't mean they don't work. It just means it takes too damn, like I want to be on to something different. Like I don't want to deal with this problem for the next 10 years. I want to do it in like 3 or 4 sessions the next couple of weeks. I don't want to think about it again. I want to have this resolved done so I can move on with my life. If I had to do every single problem individually, shit, we'd be here for forever. I mean, I want to kind of, let's whiz bang this. Let's go. You know, my speed's a little bit higher than that. And so I think that when people start to figure out that they can begin to run their own mind, because there's no real thing as a hypnotist. That's a bullshit term. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. You do it to yourself. I'm more of like a guide. You're seeing what you want to see in the way that you want to see it. I do not give you my mental blueprint because that won't work for you. That works very well for me, but that's not your blueprint. That's not the way that you will succeed. And so what you have to learn is how to relax enough so that when you want to change a portion of your personality or the way that you see something or the way that you picture something or what your future looks like or how you think about the past, you have to remove that factor that's normally in there that doesn't allow you to do anything. Because when you're stressed out, you can't make any changes. But the second that you can relax enough, the change will be there by itself. But if you can't relax, it's just like you see the people that want to stay angry. They're so attached to being a victim and they're so attached to being hating somebody. you're not going to crawl out of the hole.
Yeah.
Every time you're mad, you're just digging it deeper. And so you have to be able to relax enough in that space so that you go, shit, I'm digging this hole myself. Like, what the hell am I doing? And so you can laugh at yourself. And now that you're laughing, you're playing a game.
Yeah.
And when you play a game, it's much easier to succeed because you don't get so serious about it.
Yeah.
You're having
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely.
Speaking of fun, before we wrap up, what are a couple of ways that you like to have fun? Because obviously you are busy with loads of different endeavors. What is a way that you break away from all of that, you get out of your mind and you actually have fun? What is that for you?
I think I really enjoy, growing up, I loved theater. I loved acting. Like before sports, I wanted to be in the movies like Will Smith and Denzel. Hey, there's still a shot. I might manifest that. Who knows?
You have a documentary.
I mean, we might go from HGTV documentary. It's out there. I mean, I'm thinking about it. But no, I love Broadway musicals. I love comedies. I love those kind of things that just make you laugh or make you, awe-inspired by people's performances. I love watching great performers and artists because, in a sense, with what we're doing here in this life now, it's like we all have a blank canvas and we're all artists. We're all beautiful artists creating this story on a canvas. And so I like to see that artist at work, whatever it may be, whether it be a singer or performer. So those are some things I enjoy. I'm flying out to LA tomorrow to go see a concert on a Wednesday, which is random for me. I never do that middle of the week. So yeah, I like to get away and do those kind of things. Yeah, but there was something that I wanted to hit before that Chris was saying something there about being stressed. And for those listeners, if I could give them a key that I'm trying to focus on now, is just not living in your past, thinking about all these things that have happened, because that's where a lot of this maybe stress of, man, I really didn't enjoy how that happened, or how this person treated me, or that scenario, or this person did me wrong. Like, let go of those things in the past. Or you have people living their whole life in their future, and it causes this anxiety or stress about what ifs. What if this happened? What if that happened? And you're making all these assumptions, and that's not where you are. Like, so now I'm trying to practice, you mentioned practices earlier, of just being more present in the moment. If I'm having a dinner with someone, phone's up, and it's almost like, and I've been feeling this more recently, is that when I'm with somebody, the whole world should shut down. Everything else should stop. And that means that I'm doing it right, where it's like, there's no other thoughts in my head going on, but that person that's right there in front of me. And if I find myself getting away from that, I need to catch myself quickly. And I'm trying now to apply that into the business, into working with people that I'm with in the company, whether it be a one-on-one or a phone call, is just being supremely present. That's a tip that I would have for the users.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And one of the ways that Chris always helps people to, how do you stay present if you have a wandering mind that's like off the rails? Yeah. And he always suggests focusing 20% on your breathing and 80% on the person in front of you. And I feel like the presence that we've cultivated here today, I haven't even thought about my breath once. I am like zoned in, tapped in, and it's just been so incredible to get to hear your story and really uncover that, all of the beauty that you've created in this life really boils down to your mindset, and the discipline that you've cultivated is exactly the key and the tool, amongst many other qualities that you embody. That is like the essence of what creates success in people's lives and how you define it. And I think you sharing on just your journey and the way that you think about it, I think that's going to help so many people unlock that potential for themselves, that it is possible. That's why we do the work as leaders, to show it's possible. I grew up in a trailer park where I could touch my fucking ceiling And now I've got 14-foot ceilings because I'm showing it's possible that you don't have to be a circumstance of where you came from or what you've learned or what you didn't learn.
Yep.
And I just want to commend you and say thank you for being that light and being a leader and showing people that it is possible. Now, to wrap this up, I want to ask you, what does living an elevated life mean to you?
What does living an elevated life mean to me? Not settling, you know, not settling for a subpar life. And really, when it comes down to maybe the mentality, I think, because I left school. I quit school against everyone else's desires and wishes. I had 3 weeks left in school. I quit. I left LA Fitness. I've made these decisions that maybe went against the grain. And I think now for me, it's understanding that you got to have a win or in my mind, it was a win or die mentality. And that's harsh. But it's about betting on yourself and knowing that if you're willing to put in the work, that you can create anything that you want in this world. And you got to be willing to bet on yourself. And I think many people, they hold themselves back from certain opportunities because they are not willing to go all in. And I would say just go all in and manifest and create the life that you want. Yeah.
Man, never settle sounds like 7 or above rule.
Hell yeah.
So welcome to the 7 or above club. You are officially invited to living your life with intention. That's really what the elevated life is all about, is having intention behind everything that you do. And if you are creating a life that you love, it's intentional. And we love watching the life that you're creating for yourself, for your family, and for the community. It's so beautiful. And we appreciate you sharing your wisdom here today, Tony. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it very much. You guys are beautiful, seriously, beautiful, beautiful souls. And I feel privileged to know both of you guys. So keep shining. I appreciate it.
Back at you. So tell our listeners where they can find you and learn more about linear roofing or just you as freaking goat in general.
Tony Goat _Taveras on Instagram. And I got the same on TikTok, Facebook. You can look me up, Tony Taveras. On YouTube, I do have a documentary that's out, an hour documentary that we're going to now be promoting and pushing out there, creating a website here soon. So, but mainly, even my LinkedIn. So I got LinkedIn rolling, Tony Taveras. So I'm on LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, TikTok, starting to get into more of this social media stuff now that I know it's important to get out there. And then linear roofing, www.linearroofing.com.
We'll definitely leave all of that in the show notes, especially that documentary, because I started watching it and was like, oh, damn, this is like pro. This wasn't like with your iPhone in the backyard.
Yeah. It was some time. Took a little time.
It's quality. And it immediately, just from the first few minutes, my soul was like shook, like, oh, damn, like there is power in your story. And Tony, I know you've never doubted or questioned, or maybe you have, but it doesn't show proof in the life that you've created. But let me just say, I see you on TV and there's no question about it. You're already that star, and it's just you accepting that next level of exposure and expression for who you are and how you're meant to impact the world.
I got to keep growing. I got to keep growing with you guys because I still have a lot to learn. Like, it's only been a year for me, right? And even coming into this, quite honestly, you know, and sharing openly with everyone listening, you know, but right before this call, I was on conference calls and in this different zone with COOs and all these things for hours on end. So it was like right as before I got in this, it took me a little bit to shift into this realm, right? And I now have to keep practicing it because I need it to all be flowing as one. So I can tell like that's still a gap. Like it took me a little bit to find my equilibrium even on here and tap into being more open to going from that work zone where I'm on it. But it's like I need to be better at making it all one. So I still got a lot to learn, and I still want to be learning from you guys.
Well, we can't wait to catch you on the next time. I mean, I know there's so many more deep things we can explore. There's so many extra questions I want to ask you. Hell, I remember when I first met you, I left that night. I think Britt sent it to you. I wrote a list of questions that's pages long. I mean, just about even fitness. So there's so much more. I can't wait. Hope we get you back on the podcast. And I know people are going to get so much out of this. Tony, thank you so much for your time. We love you, man.
Thank you guys. Love you guys too. Appreciate it. Peace.